Rights Commission has called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to apply the same standards on other ministers and other public office bearers as he did with Minister Nhlanhla Nene, in particular those who've already been found by the courts to have acted in a manner not befitting public office that they hold. They've identified Minister Malusi Gigaba, who admitted to attending a Diwali celebration at the Gupta residence and the infamous wedding, but denied having any relationship with the Gupta family itself beyond that of what he called acquaintances and professional relationship. Appearing before the Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs on Tuesday, Minister Gigaba said that at no stage did he assist the Gupta family or any other private interest group to capture the state during his tenure. The Commission also welcomed Nene's decision to resign as Finance Minister. Joining us now is Tseliso Thipanyane, who's the CEO of the South African Human Rights Commission. Thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon to you and to listeners.
All right, so people at home might be wondering, the South African Human Rights Commission, what on earth are they doing interested in politics of this nature?
Well, for us it's not about politics. The Human Rights Commission is a constitutional body which has been established to promote and protect human rights and strengthen constitutional democracy. And one of the important principles behind democracy is that, public office bearers should actually exercise the highest and display the highest level of ethical conduct. Our own courts have also made this requirement, and therefore we do welcome the decision by Mr. Nene to step down for acts of misconduct, acts which were unethical. We also appreciate the decision by the President to also accept this resignation, and therefore we're calling the President to also ensure that every other public office bearers exercise the same highest level of ethical conduct in order to advance democracy, in order to build trust of our people in government, in order to ensure that we have public officers who are actually committed to the values of this country.
All right, you've used Minister Nene ex-Minister Nene as an example. He resigned, so we're saying that these other ministers should resign as well and the President accepts their resignations, or are you suggesting that the President should actually fire these people?
Well, let's talk about ministers. Ministers take an oath when they take office to uphold our constitution, our democracy, and to serve the people without fear, favor, and prejudice. The Human Rights Commission is also required by the Constitution to act in a manner, which displays integrity and do its work, with honor. And therefore, we cannot, as a country, as a democracy, afford people who do not show or display the highest level of ethical conduct. And if they fail, then they must do the most honorable thing, to step down. And also the President should actually ask people like that to also do the right thing.
So you've identified Minister Gigaba as one of the people that you think fits this profile of people that are perhaps not living up to their public office. He's denied everything. He says that, look, I've met with them, that's not a crime. He says that often this is a professional relationship and that he attended some of these functions with other public figures and other people in business, so that he feels that he's being maligned unfairly. Are you saying that he's guilty of something that's worthy of resigning, because nothing's been proved yet?
There's an inquiry in Parliament around Mr. Gigaba's conduct, but we as a Commission were saying that any public office bearer, from their own conscience, just like Mr. Nene, if they know, they have not conducted themselves in a proper ethic manner, should do the most important thing and step down. We had our courts of law making a number of pronouncements on many other ministers. Recently, the Constitutional Court made a ruling that Minister Batabile Dlamini might have actually not been truthful, and the matter has been referred to the National Prosecution Authority to address these issues. Now, in the past, we've had many public office bearers, not conducting themselves in a proper manner, and they stayed. But since the advent of the new president, with the promises of a new dawn, promises of good governance, promises of ethical behavior, Now we're seeing, this being manifested in the removal of Mr. Nene. And therefore, that's why we're saying that any other minister who has not behaved in an honorable manner in violation of their oath should be removed. And the president should remove those who have been found to actually have acted unethically.
All right, so that's a very small number at the moment that have been found guilty of any kind of offence in court. So what do we do with the people who went to the Saxon Wold residence, for example? That in and of itself is not a criminal act, but it is now being seen by the public as if you go there, you must be guilty of something.
No, if you go there, it does not mean you are guilty of anything. But the case of Mr. Nene is very clear, isn't it? He denied having been there, and later he now admits in full view of the public, and that's unethical, because as I was saying earlier on, ministers do take an oath, and good governance entails ethical behavior, and therefore if you lie or if you behave in a manner which is not in line with your oath, not in line with the highest level of ethical conduct, you have to step down, because you are there on behalf of the people. Our people have to put trust in you to deliver.
If there is the narrative that we heard from the President and from Minister Nene was an error in judgment. Is there room for errors in judgment that are perhaps not unethical?
Sure, people do make mistakes, so we're not saying that if people make mistakes, they must be removed. But when we talk about ethics, we're talking about behavior which is tantamount to being dishonest, not being truthful. If you are in court, you lie under oath, that's a criminal offense. And therefore, what we're simply saying is this: for our country to move forward, we need people, men and women of integrity, men and women who will actually uphold the standards and the values of our country of good governance. So we cannot have people who are unethical or who loot public funds to continue being in government. That era is gone. We cannot accept this going forward as a Human Rights Commission, as the people of this country.
And they must go even before the courts pronounce if the behavior is seen.
It's a normal practice in most democracy. When you have done something which you feel has brought dishonor to yourself and the office you hold, you have to leave, because you have to uphold the dignity and integrity of that office. The same conduct should be expected of us as a Human Rights Commission.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Let's see what happens. A lot of people are saying that this Nene affair has set a precedent and set a high bar for future actions. Let's see what happens. Thanks very much.
A very important precedent from us.
All right.